Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is INX Prime Live. Remember, we are on your screens every single Monday to Friday between the hours of 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. Now, today we are speaking to someone who's very young, but also who's very passionate, and he goes by the name of Cholo. Now, he is a young author, entrepreneur, and speaker from Mamelodi in Tshwane. Now, at just the age of 15, Neo penned his first book, igniting a journey that has garnered international recognition as well as multiple awards. Now, he has authored 3 books in particular called The Journey, My Scars Are My Story, and The Life in a Township. Now, each book captured the unique realities of life in South Africa, but we really want to dive into his journey as an author, explore these stories behind his books, and also learn about the experiences that shaped his career. Welcome, Neo. Thank you so much for joining us here on INX Prime Live.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I truly appreciate it.
No, it's only a pleasure definitely chatting to you right now. I just want to get into this. Now, you started off at the age of 15. I mean, you're 19 right now. You're still very, very young. Most people don't even write their first book until they, 30, 40, 45 even. 19, you started at 15. What inspired you to get into the process of storytelling?
I believe that ourselves we have to tell our stories as young people and so forth. So I think that time it was during COVID-19, whereby most of people didn't have much to do, and I was more like in my own space where I had time to explore my mind, where I had the time to explore my passion. So when I was on that space, I was able to come up with my own book. But I think one of the most things that inspired me was depression. I think when we find ourselves during COVID-19, most of the people had mental issues. Most people had to battle the reality of now to live with COVID-19. So myself, I suffered from depression at the age of 14. So I used that as a momentum journey for myself to now come up with my own book.
No, I love that. And I think that, you found something that was quite a difficult situation to be able to build something so incredible like your first book in particular. But let's just go back to that. Like, you're 15 years old. Like I said, very few people release books at 15 in the world in particular. But you're obviously still at school, right? You're in high school. There's a lot of work involved at high school, a lot of challenges as well. How did you manage to balance writing a whole book, but also then getting through high school, completing your academics?
I think on my side I had great support from since I was young. There was a guy called Cholo from Afrocentric Media House who was the first person to assist me to publish my book. So throughout that particular journey of myself being able to come up with academics, myself to jungle academics and now writing 2 pages per day and so forth, he was there to support me. He was there to ensure that I have more support in terms of what do I have to write, what do I have to write about, how do we structure the book and so forth. So I don't think much of my time was taken by myself being able to write the book, but much of my knowledge was being able to be applied in terms of that.
No, very, very true. And I mean, just also remembering, I just want to think of my own personal experiences, I wrote my first book at 19. Yeah. The day you actually hold the book in your hand, it's such a special occasion. You feel overwhelmed by it. I wanted to know, I mean, that's obviously, I was done with high school. Yeah. You're still in high school. You're still a high school student. How did it feel when you held your book for the first time? And also, how did people respond to your book in terms of readers? Did they like it?
It was a great moment because I come from a township whereby reading is not something that is normal, whereby we now come up with our own version of reading. The books that we read are not written by some of us. So when I saw my first book, my first copy, I was so happy because of that moment changed how I viewed the world, changed how I viewed myself also. Because now whatever was written there was going to not just be written by myself, but I was going to be written by so many people, that I don't even know myself. So that moment was able to be a life-changing moment because from there I was able to become more like not just being an author, but being an entrepreneur, being a speaker, being able to articulate myself in that sense. So being at grade 11, now you become more special person than your peers in that particular time.
I mean, being 15 and being in grade 11 is also an accolade on its own. You started quite young. But let's go back to The Journey. Now, The Journey is obviously here as well. And that's your first book, right? That's a book that was released at the age of 15. Let's just talk about that, though. Also, like in terms of the writing process, because we have a lot of young people right now that, are very inspired by you and, obviously want to follow a similar journey. You are a case study for a lot of people now. They want to follow a similar journey towards you or like you in particular. Let's talk about the writing process in that sense. What did it entail? How was the process like? And what was the most challenging part of the process? A lot of people say it's the editing afterwards, but I think it's actually the real book itself,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Because okay, when I started to write my first book, I started with first draft that was not making sense. First draft with so many pages, with so many codes, with so many information that is not even good. So what the writing process for me was more like challenging when it comes to now articulating yourself. Because now I speak about my journey. I speak about how I was able to overcome depression, how my dad's passing was able to mold myself into being a better person. So now you become a person who touch base on your emotions. That moment also was more like heartbreaking, was more like a challenging moment because now you need to reveal the full flesh of yourself to people you don't know about, the full stranger that you don't know much about. So you write the book, you get to also apply certain knowledge of yourself. Because of once you now read the book, once you now read by yourself as an author, it is good. But once you get the feedback, it now becomes more like you having to go back to the drawing board. And now you need to ensure that whatever you have written now resonates to each and everyone who's going to read the particular book.
And also, the journey sounds like such an incredible book without a doubt. And I know it's a lot of storytelling, but I just wanted to know in terms of the book itself, I think the best stories are the ones where people can resonate with it, but also have had personal experiences with the characters. Have any of the characters, actually some of the experiences, been drawn from your own personal life or the personal life of some of your friends?
Yeah, because when I check the characters in the book and how we articulate everything, it's what is not only happening to myself, but each and every human being and so forth. We go through depression in terms of the grief. We go through depression in terms of other social aspects of it. So whatever the character is going through in terms of suffering from depression because of the grief of the father, that's what most of the people are facing each and every day. So myself, I was able to learn that when I was checking the book and resonate to my personal experiences. I have also gone to depression at a young age. I was not fully, because I come from a township whereby we don't know much about mental well-being. We don't know much about mental awareness. But you become more conscious about everything when you now expose yourself to reading, when you now expose yourself to in terms of doing more research.
Very, very true. And the thing is, we're getting a lot of comments and questions coming in from social media. Yes. Bobby in particular says, the publishing journey is such a difficult process. How did you feel when you published your book? Did you self-publish? Did you publish through a publisher? How did it work?
I think I'm so fortunate at a young age now. A publishing company comes to you and say we want to publish your own book. So I got a sponsorship in terms of publishing my first book, and that was most, I think, not hard for me because already everything was taken care of. Printing of the books, editing, proofreading, and everything was done. Also the design. So much of that challenging process was not hard for me because everything was being able to be provided at that time.
That's brilliant. And I'm just looking at some of the themes and some of the messaging in the book,
Yes.
I had a look at it. It has a lot to do with hope and resilience. Why did you emphasize resilience and hope so much in the journey in particular?
As a human being, you need to be hopeful. I think as a human being, with all the challenges that we face, with all the, social issues that we are facing day by day and so forth, you need to remain hopeful that one day everything will come into light. I think they always say that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. If there's no light, then there's not an end. So we always have to be hopeful about each and everything. But for you to be hopeful, you also need to be resilient. Because of myself suffering from those issues, need a different human being, need a different skin of myself. Because of everything that comes to me, it comes at a different form. And we shall not allow everything to make us be so weak and so forth. So once you become resilient, you are all going to be a hopeful human being.
Very, very true. I was just thinking about it, over the last few years in particular, the township economy is something that people are starting to understand the value of, and they can understand the beauty of the township economy because it's so big that it can actually change lives without a doubt. But back then, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it wasn't that popular because the government never emphasized it enough. Now it's definitely happening. Do you feel like you growing up in, Mamelodi, for example, influenced the way in which you wrote this book compared to, let's say, for example, if you grew up elsewhere?
Yeah, I believe so, because my main aim was to not just empower myself, but was to empower each and every child who's from a township, a child who's not just only from Mamelodi, but we talk about Gugule to Kairich and so forth. A child who's not going to read this book and find themselves hopeless. but a child who's going to remind themselves that if Neo was able to do this thing, I can be able to do it. So it's a book that is able to provide that boy or that girl who is in his own shack, that you can be able to do it. There's never a time for you to be hopeless. There's always time for you to remain hopeful and for you to remain resilient.
Look, people are really loving this interview with Audit Neo, and we've got more questions and comments coming in. There's also a question, more of a comment from Jessica in particular. She says the fact that you wrote your first book and you have so much of knowledge and exposure to it, you know, she just wants to know in terms of the other two books as well. I'm sure it was a much easier process for you. In that sense, was it actually easier to write the second and third book? Now that you wrote the journey so young, you kind of learned from the mistakes that you also made as well.
I think it was easy because now you learn from something, from experience.
Yeah.
Once you have experience, you have something that you can work on. So knowing, being able to publish my Facebook and now occupying the feedback that I receive from readers, from everyone, it became more easy for myself to now come up with this second book and also the third book, because you now learn what is wrong, what you have been doing, and now you are able to rectify it on the second book. The third book is just a masterpiece because you are able to because now you know what people need, you know what people expect from you. Now you live according to their expectations and give them what they need.
Look, Neo, we've got a question from Neo as well, another Neo out there. He just wants to, know in particular, like, out of all of the experiences that you've had so far, you've had all this exposure, you've interacted with a lot of people, networked a lot, you must have been to a lot of events and spoke at a lot of things. What's the one lesson that you've learned in life that you think you can pass on to someone else?
Always remain humble. I believe that with all the achievements that I have, with everything that I believe I have achieved so far at a young age, I would have been an arrogant person. So in life, you must always remain humble. Never allow yourself to be arrogant about stuff. And I think another thing is that you must respect everyone despite of who they are, how they protect themselves to you. So once you're humble, you can be able to respect people. And I believe that never allow anything to stop you from being what you want to be. You can be able to be whatever you want to be. You can be in the room with people who are bigger than you, but at the end of the day, you remain a bigger person to yourself. So never be discouraged by anything.
I love that. I really do. We have more questions. I mean, even we have stuff from Oscar and Tshwane as well. They're both saying that they want to actually launch their first books as well, and inspired by you in particular. There's a lot of young people out there, and a lot of them are going to learn and be inspired by you. What advice do you have for our youth of the country? We have a high unemployment rate. We have a lot of negativity in South Africa. What's your positive motivation to them?
It is our duty to rectify everything. I believe that as young people, we should not wait for anyone to come and rescue us. If you want to do something, let us be able to stand there and work together in terms of doing stuff. So one thing I always say is that if I see myself doing this thing, other young people are also seeing themselves doing it. So we should never be discouraged by anything, and we should always remain hopeful that one day everything will be done. But how do we do it when we don't do anything? So once you have something that you want to do, never live with an idea and believe that it will grow. So once you have resources, once you want to do something, start with what you have. Yeah. Never wait for big resources. Start with what you have for it to grow, for you to also see how your vision can be expanded.
I love that. And I was just going to say, there's a lot of conversations around authors and saying it's so difficult to get published, and you were so fortunate to do it. But there's also the concept of self-publishing, right? And I'm sure you're familiar with that as well. We have a comment coming in, more of a question. What's the difference between self-publishing and publishing, and what's the easier option between the two?
I think both are easy options. Because of self-publishing, you can just pay a proofreader. You can also pay an editing and not have the media company being able to attach to your book. So you own everything on it. While the media house, for the publishing one, the media house also have some role to play. They attach the logo, they attach also their information in terms of we are the people who publish this Facebook and so forth. So both are I think are both easy options for someone to go for. But it depends on what you want. End of the day, it depends on the end goal. How do you want it to be done for you? But I think because my second book I have self-published for me, I didn't go to any publisher, but I was able to pay publisher for them to do everything, for them to edit and also proofread for me. So first and second are all from the same options.
No, definitely. I mean, we do have another question coming in from Amy as well. And we want you guys to come in here as well, guys. Let us know on our social media platforms How do you feel about this comment that actually Amy shared with us in particular? She says that, you know, at the end of the day, being in bookstores isn't really profitable for an author. It's just there more for marketing your book. How do you feel about that?
I think it's true because of when you check my books are not in any bookstores and so forth. But I'm able to not even make a profit. So the more there are intermediaries between yourself and also the reader, it becomes more expensive because now you have to pay for shelving. You have to now pay for all the costs that are involved there for you to get the books into the warehouse and so forth. So all those costs are now costing you more. So when you think that you're going to make 100 rand as a profit, now you get to make 20 rand, and now that's not a profit, but that's a loss. So I don't think being in a bookstore can be able to make you more profit. It's just there for you to say, my book is this particular bookstore, my book is this particular bookstore, and so forth. It gives you more exposure and more credibility and so forth.
That's true. That's very, very true. Neo, I mean, it's been incredible speaking to you without a doubt. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on INX Prime Live.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome, guys. That is Neo Cholo, who is actually an author, also an entrepreneur, as well as a speaker who has achieved so much in his life. I mean, he's wrote his first book at the age of 15. He's 19 right now. He's 3 books in, and he definitely has the ambition to become whatever he wants to become. But the most important thing that he emphasizes is that you have to stay humble on the journey for you to really become the best version of yourself. Now, on that note, we are going to take a quick ad break. We'll come right back.